There you go.
All right, you can hear me?
Yeah, you're good, Jeremy.
All right, what is up, guys? George, thank you very much. So George, I was yelling at George in the chat to say
I was a bit
unmute,
distracted.
unmute me. Um, Real quickly, can you stop screen sharing real quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Is it showing my face or no? Wait, why am I? How do I turn my video on? Because
Mm,
there's no button because it's a webinar.
let's see.
I'm a webinar guest. I need to be added as a panelist.
Yeah.
So you got to let me go backstage. There you go. And whoa, I don't have that in my background. That's not my background.
There we go.
I don't even know. I've never had a background before. Is that one of that's that? Yeah, that's your thing. Okay. Anyway, what's up, guys? So George, something that's really important right now for everybody in the audience to see is this day one is all about visionaries and integrators. I know you're an integrator, so you definitely see this from an integrator's point of view, but there's a lot of people in the audience right now, I'd be willing to bet, are visionaries looking how to work well with an integrator, which is again what day one is all about. So I invited a lot of people here for this reason because a lot of people see me back in the day as an integrator. And that's because I built out a lot of different systems within the sub2 community. And I built a lot of communication systems, but in fact, I'm 100% visionary. And so for me, I've had the learning lessons of what to do and what not to do as an integrator working with visionaries or as a visionary working with integrators. So guys, if you're in the audience right now, if you are a visionary, this is essentially an integrator's role on what they're supposed to do. And then if you're an integrator working with someone that's a visionary is going to help kind of guide your performance in how well you do. So that I just wanted to say that. And I want to figure out why this light is not turning on because it's dark.
There we go. Yeah.
So were you going to have Greg Tuck in here as well? Or is he not here yet?
Yeah, I already assigned him as a panelist.
Okay.
Howdy, howdy.
Oh, there you are, Greg. What's up, buddy? Um,
What's
so
going on?
What's up, brother? So Greg, by the way, guys, is an incredible integrator with the partnership with Kenley Camp, and they're based in Texas, if you can hear by his drawl. But Greg has been one of the integrators that I've looked up to for a long, long, long time. So you got some pretty good setups here. Is Oscar here, by the way, George, or is he just in the background?
Oscar is here as well. Yeah.
What's up, Oscar? Without a mic. All right, so get back to it, sir. And by the way, I have a lot of people from my meetup that I do every single month. A lot of those people are here right now, which it normally would have been tonight, but we're doing this tonight. So a lot of people are from Utah and elsewhere. So pleasure to have you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeremy. All right. Well, yeah, everyone, thank you for your patience while we figure out the technical pieces. Looks like we can go ahead and jump in and get started. Let me go ahead and grab my screen again. Just give me one sec. And so again, what I'm going to be doing is just kind of walking through. So what we want to do is focus on those three key steps that I mentioned earlier, right? So let me get my screen pulled up here. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So let's just kick it from the top, right? So why most businesses fail to achieve a streamlined, efficient, and profitable RA operation? One is there isn't any solid way. A lot of us are identifying and bridging operational gaps. I think a lot of us tend to just kind of look at what we think is the right thing to do, right? We just take on work and we just, stack a to-do list and, we just kind of keep ourselves busy, right? We keep ourselves occupied. Two, we struggle to find or become top tier integrators, at least from the integrator perspective, right? I know Jeremy mentioned that there's some visionaries in the group. When it comes to the integrators, though, a lot of times what we do as integrators is we struggle to as it points out here, to align with the business vision. And what that means is, when, like, as tactical individuals and with an analytical mindset, a lot of times we're, I guess you could say, nearsighted, right? We're in the trenches. We're figuring out how to deliver on the short-term tactical execution, right? We're trying to make the dream that the visionaries have a reality, right? And that's us getting our fingers dirty, and that's us kind of, figuring out all the bits and pieces. And with all that said, it's a little hard sometimes for us to take a step back and to see the bigger picture. And that bigger picture, that is the business vision, right? That business strategy, that strategy that the visionary holds, the strategy that the visionary builds for us, right? They're the ones that have a lot of those skill sets that that sometimes as an integrator we might lack, right? The visionary who focus on that long-term strategy, has their solid network. They're people. They're, they know how to, they know how to talk, they know how to network them, so they know how to market themselves. They know, you know, just overall what the big picture looks like. And that can help when we're, as integrators, we're a little, when we're a little nearsighted. So anyways, number three, facing challenges and balancing long-term strategy with short-term tactical implementations. That's just what I was talking about, right? Just making sure that we're that perfect marriage of, um, a lot of times when, when I talk about visionaries and integrators, that the visionary is the person who has those crazy dreams, right? The crazy ideas, but none of it's going to happen if they don't have that integrator who's going to make it all come together, right? It's not really feasible, right, if they don't have someone to connect all the dots for them, right? And the same thing kind of goes for an integrator, right? Or when, we can do all these really cool tricks with computers, right? None of it really matters if we're not able to market ourselves, right? Like we need to have that solid marriage of long-term and short-term synergy. And that's essentially what, one of the important pieces that we're going to be talking about today. So those are some of the key factors when it comes to building a successful REI operation. So again, just let me skip through these because I already talked about what we're going to be talking about today, 1 through 9. So let me come down
While
here.
you're looking through that, what I'll explain for real quickly, because there's a lot of people here that probably have experience in business, and there's probably some people here that might be for the first time realizing they might need a visionary or they might need an integrator. The best way to envision this, guys, is it is the visionary's job to clear the runway, and it is the integrator's job to land the plane. So when he's talking about implementing certain things, that is another word for an integrator is an implementer. So it's implementing certain strategies, implementing the design of certain projects. So for example, let's pretend that Greg was my integrator, and I said to him, "Hey, Greg, I want to build a dating app." Greg, as an integrator, would come to me and say, "Okay, here's my projection. Give me 2 weeks. Let me get an idea of what research I need to do, and I'm going to get right back to you, and I'm going to give you a timeline on what that looks like." And so again, it's the visionary's job to clear the runway and the integrator's job to land the plane, if that makes any sense to you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so although a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be some of that technical stuff, Jeremy's going to kind of set us, just make sure that and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? The tactical and the long term, the tactical and the strategic part of it, right? Sometimes, we need that healthy balance. So I just want to before I continue, just really quick, you guys are able to see my screen, right? I'm getting some messages mentioning that there are folks that cannot see what see what I'm showing.
See the screen. Can I ask you, George, are you able to open up the chat so that everyone can talk? Because I'm not seeing, because right now I'm pretty sure that the chat is shut down to anybody that's just a viewer right now. And obviously we want to have interaction. Is there any way you can open up that chat, please?
Yes, let's see.
Because right now it shows only hosts and panelists. And so we
Okay.
definitely want to open it up to attendees.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, give me 2 seconds and see if I could update something in the Zoom settings real quick.
In the meantime, what's been going on in your neck of the woods, Jeremy?
Uh, well, speaking of neck, I obviously I'm 42 years old, so I slept wrong last night, and now I can't look right. Like I'm not kidding. Like I was contemplating taking muscle relaxers before this, and I was like, you guys don't want to see me falling asleep on video. But yeah, that's as far as to the side I can look right now. So that's in my neck of the woods. Other than that, we went did a little bit of door knocking today. Thursday we got a couple of walkthroughs for properties we have under contract, and yeah, we since you and I last spoke, Greg, I did a complete restructure, and I brought in a new COO, I brought in a new integrator, and because of that, we basically shut down everything. We scrapped all of our systems, all of our software, and started over because we realized that there was a lot of things that were broken in the business that while there's the sunk cost fallacy that you've put so much money into something that you just can't get rid of it, we decided to say, you know what, we're done. We're getting rid of the broken things. We're fixing everything now because the market that was before the correction, that was a different market that involved different strategies, that involved everything different. And so we basically had to restart, and that's what we've been doing. We finally got everything restructured about a month ago. So yeah, that's my neck.
Yeah, I can say I agree with that. We kind of slimmed down on our virtual assistant team over there because we're not marketing as heavy. The market correction, it changed a lot of buy boxes for people. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult to get deals right now. It's just difficult to get as many deals is what I would say. We still got consistent deal flow. But as far as restructuring goes, I could say we're on the same page as you. We had to do a lot of things a little bit differently. I don't know, I'll put it up. The way I market, I'd be first to market over here. That's what we've always been doing. We kind of mainly lean on REI SIF. That's the CRM that we use. But we've been just hammering out a lot of first to market. I opened up in 2 more markets in Montgomery County, and then Clark County over there in Las Vegas. And then we know we do Bell County, Burleson County, and Harris County here.
Vegas, bro. Get out of my Vegas.
Man, it was just something that happened. I started marketing out of Arizona, got a couple deals, and I was like, man, I wonder if I can do this in Las Vegas. So I don't know. And we got somebody that's boots on the ground over there who, that's why. But yeah,
Right.
there's enough deals out there for everybody.
I wasn't able to find the setting for opening up the chat. So what I'm going to tell you guys is if you guys have a question, there is an option to put in a question, and the Q&A is open to us. So if there's anything that you have to add or question, questions, comments, or concerns, throw it in there. We'll definitely be sure to tackle it. But I don't want to waste anyone's time looking through settings while we're going through the event. So let me just go ahead and jump back in. So yeah, thanks guys again for your patience. So again, one of the key things here when we're talking about the operational groundwork, we're going to have Greg add on, just some of his tidbits on, what this essentially looks like for him as an integrator as well. But one of the important things that I wanted to mention was when it comes to being a successful and ultra integrator, I think a lot of what this entails is just being able to understand the lay of the land, right? Like there is a fine line between understanding the work and then getting too much in the weeds. And sometimes it was, going back to that rabbit hole that I was talking about earlier. But I think one of the most important things about being effective in your business and being able to move the needle for your team is really like truly understanding the absolute rawness of everything that goes in your day-to-day operations. And so a lot of what that's going to require is for you to have like an honest talk with your team, with your visionary, or whatever other leaders that you've got on your team, and just talking about like, okay, so what do our workflows look like, right? Whether it's just you and me, whether it's our entire team, like I need to be able to document all the workflows. And the reason why that's important is because as that integrator, as that person whose key responsibility is to streamline and make things efficient, there are going to be essential things that we're going to have to rely on that reside in that foundational work that we pull together, organizing those operational tasks up front, right? And so the way that I approached it as an integrator way back in the early day, and even still to this day, I do this at a quarterly cadence, is similar to if you look at like like a hierarchy chart. Sometimes you got your CEO, CFO, you've got your lead manager, you've got, so that's essentially kind of what I do when it comes to listing out the tasks of my team. And so the way that I start, and there's actually an Excel sheet that I'll be sharing to make this way easier, and I'll share with that in a sec. But essentially, what I look at is my conveyor belt, right? I look at each member of the team, whether it's a member or it's a responsibility of the team, the lead gen, the lead management, the acquisition responsibilities, the dispo responsibilities, the transaction coordinator responsibilities. For each responsibility, for each role, I list out everything that we have them doing, right? So for lead gen, we're gonna have them, you know, we're going to have them dispositioning, whether that lead is going to be hot, cold, or warm or whatever, right? We're going to make sure they're going to be making sure that, the right leads have the right kind of drip campaigns and the right types of follow-up sequences, right? And so on. Same thing with the lead management. The lead management and acquisition, just making sure that we're looking at the right key responsibilities and just outlining everything that they're responsible for. And this can be a little tedious, but like again, it's all about setting up the foundation and just making sure that you understand every part of the business. And I don't want to talk from the slides, so I just want to make sure that I'm touching on the key parts of what this operational groundwork sequence looks like. So as we're kind of listing out, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like, is actually here. So what I did was similar to that hierarchy chart that you just saw. So if we're looking at like the lead gen, the lead management and acquisitions, we're looking at everyone on the team, right? I've got their list of responsibilities here. So for lead gen, I got text messaging, list pulling, skip tracing, yada, yada, right? So on and so forth. So everyone has their list of responsibilities. So these are, again, these are gonna be this is gonna be part of all the information that you're collecting as you're having conversations with your leaders and with your teams, right? So you're gathering all of this, you're putting all this down. And what's important is as we're going through these responsibilities, we're going to essentially define if these tasks that they have are essential or non-essential. And this is going back to what we do when it comes to categorizing these tasks. So when it comes to essential or non-essential tasks, we got to think about what are we really spending our time, our money, our effort on, right? A lot of times we can focus on building the best thing since sliced bread, right? We can try out all these fancy software. We can try, all these really cool systems and applications, right? But when it comes to really moving the needle for your team, we have to define what really is essential or non-essential, right? And sometimes you'll be surprised about, you know, you'd be surprised coming across the, all the non-essential things that you find out your team is going to be, ends up doing. There's a couple of steps here to find out how to rate the efficiency of each task. And because we have an audience of both integrators and visionaries, I really don't want to spend too much time talking about too much of the technical pieces, because I just don't want to lose you guys. But for the integrators that are interested in what this does actually look like, I'd love to, to show you the sequence that I go through to basically help me get from this, right, from listing all these tasks here and getting to a point here where it spits out everything. And based off of how I'm rating it, based off of how I'm grading the importance, based off of how I'm defining if it's essential, non-essential, if it's a bottleneck, if it's part of a long-term. So based off of how it gets rated and all the different tags, if you will, that get assigned to, whatever responsibility of that role, it gets ranked, and the spreadsheet automatically, uses, it's magic to help us as integrators at least focus on the right things based off of its importance and priority. So in this example, we've got campaign follow-ups to focus on. We've got arranging pictures and arranging inspections as a dispo manager, right? These are things these are easy things, low-hanging fruit, right? These automatically show up in the spreadsheet as in the right category as things that we can focus on, automatically ranked. Anyways, I could talk about this for days. You can see there's like 10 different tabs here. I will walk through step by step how to fill this out. But again, I don't want to lose you guys. There's, again, a whole bunch of different things that we could talk about when it comes to operational groundwork. But I did want to also leave time for Greg to chime in. And if there's anything, Brett, if there's anything that you want to add to, whatever it is that you're working on as it relates to operational groundwork and some of the things that you've learned, or any empirical wisdom that you want to share, I wanted to also give you some time to talk about that as well.
Yeah, sure. I guess what I would like to say first and foremost is a lot of this seems overwhelming, and it seemed really overwhelming to me in the beginning. However, what I learned is that, we as human beings, we try to overcomplicate things a lot. So don't overcomplicate any type of process. Something that works for me is I start at the very end and then I work backwards whenever I'm creating a process flow, instead of starting at the beginning and then go, if and. I don't like doing that. I like starting at the end and working myself all the way back to the beginning. And then, I like to find somebody. I think for my last SOP that I made, I gave it to my girlfriend, and I asked her if she could complete the task, without me helping her at all. And she was able to do it. And that's how simple they should be whenever you write them. It should be so simple that you can give somebody with no experience the task and they should be able to complete it.
What does an SOP stand for, Greg?
An SOP is it's just a standard operational procedure. It just means like, hey, if you need to cold call somebody, these are the steps that you do it inside of our business. And an SOP for that for Jeremy might look different from mine, because he might use a multi-line dialer and, I use a single line dialer, or their company may not be very big, so they're very skinny on their budget, so he's using his personal phone. But you still want to put those procedures in place. You want to record them as soon as possible. That way, whenever you grow your team, you can just start implementing it instead of spending your time training people. They can go back to the stuff that you've already done. That's something else that I highly recommend, is in the very beginning, record everything, even if you think it's shit, and use it. And you can just go back later and fix it, because you're just double working yourself. If you're training somebody, they quit, then you got to train somebody else, because not everybody's here to stay in your business forever. Unfortunately, you got to find the people that fit right. And as you get more experience, you'll figure out, you'll know what to look for as time goes on a little bit quicker, because you'll get it with the experience.
Absolutely. And something I'll add to that, Greg, talking about SOPs, something that's probably, when you're building out a standard operating procedure, probably the most important thing you can do in that SOP is defining the goal. Letting the person that you're creating that SOP for understand what you're ultimately trying to achieve, because what they're doing is they're interpreting these instructions on the way this needs to be done. But if they're not achieving the goal that you're looking to achieve, it's their job to report back to you and say, hey, Greg, I noticed that this isn't working the same way. It's not getting to the end result that you specified you're looking for. So whenever you're building on an SOP, guys, knowing the ultimate goal of why that SOP is being designed is the most important factor. Everything before that is important, but you have to be able to, again, understand why you are doing what you are doing. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate that, man. It was a good interjection there. Yeah, basically, like I was saying, start, to me, start at the end, go to the beginning. He's right, have somebody else define what they need to do. And then, see if they can do it, and let them repeat the task, monitor them, see if they're making any mistakes anywhere, if you need to correct anything. Because if you're trying to get things to run smoothly and you're trying to have your operation actually be an operation or a conveyor belt per se, you want them to be able to keep doing it flawlessly without having to reach out to you, because you can be doing something else other than stopping and going back and helping that person. We just started our marketing in these other 3 counties, and I hired one virtual assistant for it, and it's going so quickly and so flawlessly. I was talking to Kinley the other day about it, but Kinley's my business partner. We live in Bell County, that's Temple, Texas. We market out of here. We're in Central Texas. Back whenever I first started, I believe it took me about probably 3 months to figure out the data thing and how I wanted to market to it, because I wasn't just buying lists from PopStream because it sucked. The virtual assistant is from the Philippines. I used to have a virtual assistant company. I don't know if Jeremy still has his.
I still do, technically.
I technically have mine too, but if anybody needs a virtual assistant, I got a spreadsheet. I'm not selling my services. I got a spreadsheet full of people who are looking for work. So if anybody wants it, my name is Greg Tuck on Instagram, Big Spread Greg on Instagram, Greg Tuck on Facebook. I'll email you the spreadsheet, and y'all can interview them yourselves.
Or if you want someone to find a VA for you and implement them into your business, then just go to primevirtuals.com.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I highly recommend that. But no, we got this VA in place. Her name is Mimi. I gave her, I have everything in a Google Drive. I just share her drive to make her a viewer only. She goes in there, she banged it out. We talk on Facebook Messenger from time to time, but I'm not spending a long time, just sitting there training them all day. And then if I do have to train her, another thing I recommend is, if you got a Zoom training like this, I don't like doing Zooms personally. I record the whole Zoom and then I put it in the Google Drive pertaining to the subject that we were talking about. So, we're talking about groundwork here, and that's to me, those are kind of the most important factors for myself. If I'm missing anything right now, just for groundwork, chime in, Jeremy, be my guest.
Real quick, in the chat, guys, can you guys type in visionary or integrator? I want to see what the percentage of you guys are. What are you guys? Integrator, visionary, integrator, visionary. Integrator. This is actually looking pretty tight. I wish we had a poll. If we did a poll, I think it's getting pretty close. All right, Mike Brown, you are not both, sir. You are not both. Okay. So and this is a very a fun thing to talk about. When I first started in this business, I had already started multiple businesses before I got into real estate, and I was a solopreneur. I started those businesses myself. I ran them myself. I wore every single hat there was. And when I got into real estate, I took the test Rocket Fuel, right? We all know about that, guys. The term visionary integrator kind of comes from the book Rocket Fuel, where there's a test at the end that it asks you questions about what you like to do in business. And those questions begin to correlate more if you're a visionary or you're an integrator. And when I first took that test, I think I got like 98% visionary and 96% integrator. And that's because I was lying to myself. That's because I was making myself believe that I enjoyed working with spreadsheets, that I enjoyed payroll, that I enjoyed those things. But that's the thing, is that I was a solopreneur. I was the only guy in my business doing that. So I was trying to make myself believe that I really, really enjoyed all of the things that involve business. Once you start to realize the things that you really do truly enjoy, Mike, you're going to gravitate towards one or the other. I promise you that. You're either going to really enjoy integrator type stuff or visionary type stuff. And so if you guys are an in between right now, it's because you just haven't had enough experience yet figuring out what you really love. Okay. For you, Greg, what do you have you tested recently? Not HIV. I'm talking sorry. Have you tested for rocket fuel?
Yeah, I tested positive for both. Got to stay away from the the bad side of town.
Right.
No, yeah, I tested it. I got a little bit of both as well. But yes, am I a good salesman? Yes. I got one of the biggest deals that I ever know of, and my second wholesale deal, I think, was I had a spread of $96,000, and I did that deal myself. I negotiated it. I think I made last month. I did another $35,000 one. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm a good salesman. But it's what Jeremy's saying. At one point in time, I was a solopreneur too. I had to do everything myself, and I had to convince myself that I liked it. I don't like calling people. I hate calling people. I don't want to talk to them. It's just not my thing. I'd rather just be in the background and getting everything teed up. That way, my teammate can take care of it. I don't
Right.
want to have. I don't want to have to deal with that. Now, if there's title issues, Schedule C, and it's very long. I love that. Send it to me. It's a good puzzle that I can figure out. If I got to find a long lost heir, and they're homeless in Louisiana, and we got to send them a pizza. Hey, let's go. We'll find them. But as far as like going over there, talking to them, and getting ink on paper, that's just not my thing. I don't like it.
Yep. I want to touch on that real quickly. What Greg was saying is that he's a good salesperson. We actually, for our acquisition team, we try to find people that are actually more on the integrator side of the role, because visionaries tend to want to design things themselves. They want to build things out themselves. They have bigger and better ideas than what the current CRM is, and they want to see changes. Integrators do a very good job in a sales role because they're there and they follow instructions. They're very good at hitting their KPIs. They want their metrics to be hit. And so they have that goal to follow up with that. So Greg, you being a good closer also reflects how good of an integrator you are, that you may not want to talk on the phone every single day and get told to shut up, but you're probably pretty good at just like hunkering down and getting shit done. While a visionary, we got shiny objects galore, bro.
Yeah, to touch on that, I was talking to Mark Carpenter about what he was doing, and he said that he took all of his old leads and he put them in a follow-up campaign, and he was getting deals out of it. I had that was a good idea. So, I did the same thing. I took all of my old leads, I put them in a campaign, and I hammered all of them out, and I generated 2 pretty promising leads that I have to call back and make offers on today. And that was this morning whenever I did that. So yeah, you're right. I will sit here and hammer the monotonous bullshit out, like creating the something that I enjoyed. I created all the SOPs for each county. I did that. I think it took me 2 days, but you got to understand, it was how to pull pre-foreclosure data, how to pull probate data, how to pull tax delinquencies, how to pull code violations, and that was over the span of 3 counties. So I got to write an SOP for each of those in each county because they're all different. And then for code violations, there's little bitty cities and stuff like that. You have to find a point of contact for the code violations in those certain cities, and you got to write them as well as reach out to the county on top of that. So I made a spreadsheet. But I can go on and on and on about it. It's just stuff that you guys know, but it's just the groundwork. That's stuff that I really enjoy doing. I like getting it organized. I like whenever it feels scrambled in the beginning, and then at the end I straighten all the lines out, and it just it feels beautiful to me.
Yeah. George, Greg and I have been going back and forth for a little bit. Is there anything else? Is there another graphic you want to share?
No, I think so. What I want to do is focus less on talking from, to your point, to the graphics. I want to be able to have more of a free flowing conversation, because we have such a mixed bag of both visionaries and integrators. The next topic essentially is going to be discussing just that, the synergy of how the integrator and visionaries are basically working together to create that unstoppable force, right? And so when it comes to defining what your superpowers are, whether it's for the integrator or visionary, I think what what's important to like if because what I've noticed too is a lot of folks, they'll claim to be one or the other, or as we've seen both. I notice a lot of folks just don't even know, right? A lot of folks don't even know, what side of the field they're on. And I think if you're going to like, so the same, like I have both visionary and integrator tendencies as well, right? When I've found myself doing some of the long-term strategic stuff, looking at the bigger picture, when I found myself, doing, the big-eyed vision stuff, what I found myself doing was gravitating towards figuring out how to make it all happen again, right? And so that's kind of like where my home was. It's calling me back to do the things that I was passionate about. Um, and similar to Greg, Greg said, that's where his home is, right? Organizing stuff and making it clean, making it pretty. And so like whatever you feel like your calling is, that's probably where you need to focus, right? And so is that, you know, is that maybe part of the journey? Yeah, altogether, it all is. But I think once you've identified whatever it is that whatever superpower you've got, I think one very critical piece of they always say you can go far by yourself, but you go farther, you go further with the team, right? So when you're finding your partner, when you're finding your other half, right? If you're the integrator looking for a visionary, or if you're a visionary looking for your integrator, I think a lot of what happens is, we're in these groups, we're in these communities, and we end up finding like-minded individuals, right? We end up finding power players. We end up finding people who have goals and ambition just like we do, right? And it's attractive. And I think in a sense, it can sometimes be a little distracting just because, oh, well, they want the same things that we do, right? And then when you get to spending a few dates with them, right? You get on a few business calls with them, you do some, key projects, you do some special things with them, and then come to find out you're both fighting for power, right? Like, oh, I think I should do this, or no, we should probably do it this way or whatever. And over time, you might be able to stomach those kind of situations, but what ends up happening is if if you're not focusing on the things that you need to own, the things that your team is relying on you to drive, a lot of times if you're not quote unquote getting your way, can sometimes build resentment, right? And a lot of times what happens is these alphas is what it is. These alpha players clash, right? And arguments happen, and stuff, ends up missing when it comes to the whole story sometimes, and hidden intentions and agendas, and the secret conversations, and all these crazy things happen, and we end up finding ourselves looking for another partner again. And so we really have to find out again what our superpowers are, what part of the jigsaw puzzle we fit, right? Because sometimes, just like I don't know about you guys, but I'm married, right? I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't looking for a partner, but I don't know, something just happened when I met this person, like I knew it, right? Like everything, like there were so many things that were unsaid that just aligned, right? Like so many things about like where we were going, what was understood, right? And those things are powerful, right? And similar to dating, going back to to the dating analogy, you have to kind of go on those first few dances together, and talk about what what your morals are, what your values are, what success means to you, what are the things that you're focused on, just to kind of fill it out, right? Because when you're having those conversations and they're saying like, oh well, I want to make $1 million this year, which is important. Money's obviously gonna, it helps, right? But what if you just, you want some extra cash on the side, right? Like what if you have like a different kind of vision of what success means to you, and it all just comes down to speaking the same language, and so I just wanted to make sure that at least tee up the stage for that conversation, Oscar and I have been working together for, again, for the better part of 2 years. And, you know, there are things that I, to be quite honest, I have had a hard time stomaching. But what's important is that as an integrator, as a person who has identified my role, as a person who understands what I'm responsible for, I trust him. I trust him to make decisions that he does from a strategic perspective, and he trusts me to make decisions from a tactical perspective. And I know that there are some things that he might have a hard time stomaching with things that I want to do or say from a tactical point of view. But when we trust each other, magic happens, right? Like it just so happens that every time, we empower one another as partners, as true partners and honest partners, when we empower each other, that trust goes a long way, and we make the magic work. We make the dream happen. And that's key, is just understanding where your lane is. And when you find yourself start to like, so as an integrator, right? Like if I start to kind of tell Oscar like, oh, you should do this, with your marketing, or you should do this, like I'm giving recommendations that, like I'm entitled to have an opinion. I'm entitled to be part of a conversation, right? But ultimately it's up to him as the visionary to decide where that where that strategy is, right? And the same thing with him. If there's an integral piece of, if there's like a vendor that we're using, or if there's like a solution to whatever it is that we're trying to do, he's obviously entitled to, his opinion. He's entitled, he has every right to be part of a conversation. But as someone who understands and has that technical expertise, someone who's been doing the groundwork, that there's a little bit more of that true understanding. Like I'm closer to the work, and conversation is important, but ultimately I'm empowered to make the decision. And so that's all it's about. It's just figuring out how to be able to, just get along with your guy or gal, and be able to have those tough conversations, and to be able to get through conflict resolution, and not be in a rush just because somebody, wants cool things and to quit their job too, right? Just to not be in such a rush to try and force a relationship to happen. Yeah, I just wanted to set that up. And Oscar, Jeremy, you guys are more than welcome to.
Oh, what's up, Oscar? Look at you.
I thought we're breaking up online, George. I'm like, what the heck?
When he's
You know,
like, when he's like, I can't
he's like
stomach some of the
3 day
things.
3 day breakup thing with me, so you can find other visionary with like 100+ people watching.
Right. If you're a visionary and you want George as an integrator, just say on the chat.
Right, yeah. Just say so. Just say so. Right. But
yeah, stomach some things. I thought it was your cooking.
yeah. But hey, yeah, man. Hey, great to see you, Jeremy. Great to see you, Greg, and everyone here. Hey, Oscar/George. Nice to see you too. Man, it's so great to see you guys all here, and listening to everyone. Fresh, especially Jeremy. I always enjoy your humor and wisdom. It's like, I don't know, you should be a comedian investor, right? It's like, I think you could be that, man. I think you can make a killing in that, especially in content section. So I don't know, man. Just think about it, right? Think about it.
I'll quit this and I'll just go stand up all the way.
Yeah, right. So F is gonna poach George. All right. Well, you try to. We have big plans. I think George is attached to me when you hear that plan. But that's, I just want to chime in, right? I see a lot of people say I'm both. So the right answer to that is yes, you can be a visionary and integrator, but in the business you have to play visionary or integrator. I mean, we're all here entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs are go-getter, and they're both visionary and integrator. I mean, they both have that part of the brain, right? Jeremy can program. Jeremy can put up CRM. I mean, Greg can, sell houses to people. I mean, Greg can also buy houses, but it is not their role in a company. That's why there's this responsibilities, right? I mean, when you take the rocket fuel and you see the both similar, I mean, the both like level, I think the numbers similar. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that you can do a good job at both. But in a company, you have to pick your role, right? And at the end of the day, when we are solopreneur, when I haven't met George yet, I did everything, right? I mean, I skip trace, I cold call, I train VAs, I buy a Podio, I customize, I have someone in Fiverr, customize a Podio for $500. It runs. It doesn't run well, but it runs. And because you're a solopreneur, you have to do both, right? But then once you figure out things and you're going towards, I think I'm better at talking with people. That's when you focus on, and you find someone else that says, you know what, I like going behind the scenes. I like to be managing leads. I like to pull lists, and I like to have a confidence of someone who can guide me of what's right and what's wrong. And that's why, don't say you're both. I mean, you're both, but when you go into a partnership, when you find a partner, pick one. That's all we're saying, right? And then, I mean, in some companies, I could be an integrator in the beginning. I could be a COO in the beginning. A lot of CEO in the companies was COO, right? I mean, Jeff Bezos, when he started, he's probably everything in COO too, and then he graduated to a CEO, and now he has a COO, right? So all of these things, just because we want to make sure that you understand that, right? And limit the confusion of saying like I'm both, right? Yeah, you have, we're all entrepreneurs here. We can be both. We can run the business ourselves. We can get $1 million by ourselves, but with 2 or 3 people and being in your own zone, that's what works well in a business that is grow well. You can grow and scalable.
So I want to talk about that real quick. So I see Josh in the chat says one big distinction is also that visionaries like to be seen and are out in the limelight. Integrators don't care much about that. So Josh, there's truth to that, but you're seeing it in a different light, so to speak. Visionaries don't like to be seen in the limelight, but visionaries need to be social to bring in new opportunities. They need to have conversations with different people every single day, because if they're just sitting in a cave, that visionary is not being stimulated by new opportunities or new ideas. And so it's not about being in social media. It's not about creating reels and having a bunch of followers. It is more about, and this is where I realize that this is where I shine, it's about identifying opportunities. And if you look at Pace, for example, Pace is able to identify opportunities 12 steps ahead. He's able to see that he'll tie this relationship with this relationship, knowing that eventually it's going to lead to this relationship up here that he never had contact with prior to that point. And so it's very strategic in when a visionary is trying to be in the limelight, why they're actually there. But if you guys don't mind, I know Oscar and Greg kind of know like my history of being an integrator and being a visionary and going back and forth. But a lot of people here, I think it's really important to identify that when I first started, I was, again, solopreneur. I was doing both visionary and integrator roles. I was designing my CRMs. I was designing the communication platform for Sub2. But what people were not seeing is that I was hiring contractors to do all this for me, right? I wasn't learning how to code Python and do all that stupid stuff. That didn't inspire me. But as a visionary, I knew what I was envisioning, and I brought that in. Now, because of that, there was a person who approached me about being the integrator for a partnership. And I became an integrator for them being the visionary. And what I realized was I was putting way too much pressure on them as the integrator, that they were not hitting their KPIs, they were not hitting their metrics. And eventually that entire partnership exploded. That visionary saw other opportunities out there. I'm sitting there thinking we're going to build a business together. They were going and dating other people behind my back and stuff like that. And it really, really damaged me financially, and it damaged me emotionally, because I put a lot of heart into that. I put 100% of my soul into that partnership as the integrator, and it exploded. Well, what happened from that partnership is one of my acquisition managers came to me and said, Jeremy, I typically lean towards integrator roles, and I would love to give you the opportunity, Jeremy, that you can be the visionary and I'll be the integrator, and let's see where that goes. And that was a 2-year partnership that went really, really, really well up until about, 6 months ago. And George, you made a comment about 2 alphas don't coexist very well. And I actually I actually want to change that mindset. That I would love to be. And right now, I brought on a COO now. His name is Evan. He's absolutely incredible. And he is an alpha, just as I am, but he is an alpha with his role and his responsibilities, which means that, and George, I'm just going to try to say this to you from my wisdom and my advice. When you say that ultimately Oscar has the ultimate say, and you're the integrator, and Oscar being the visionary has the ultimate say, there's going to come a point where for Evan, I don't want to have a say. I just want to say what I need, and he does everything for me. Right. And so there needs to be a clear separation. And I'll tell you from experience, when you're allowing that to kind of blend, it becomes somewhat toxic to that relationship. It becomes toxic to that partnership, because now you guys are fighting over things that is a clear separation that both of you should not be touching the same thing. And so, do you guys know who Kent Clothier is? You don't know, neither of you know who Kent Clothier is, the guy who runs Boardroom? Okay.
I do.
Yeah, okay. So he's a high performer. And there was a moment that I was in the lobby at one of the masterminds that I was at. And Eddie Rosefield is his integrator, is his COO. And we approached Eddie and we were talking about hiring me. This is with my previous partner. We were talking about hiring me an executive assistant, a personal assistant. And my previous partner, he at the time said, no, Jeremy, you need to earn an executive assistant. And I was always one for going, hey, why am I literally was going to properties to spray for ants, right? Like that should not be what the CEO of a company should be doing. If we could have an executive assistant to be able to do that, even better. They're going to book the pest control person. They're going to book the plumber and stuff like that. So we bring this up to Eddie. And again, Eddie is one of the most incredible integrators and one of the biggest hearts I've ever met. And he says, Jeremy, absolutely hire that executive assistant. And absolutely, you guys need to separate your roles better. When Kent is here at the Boardroom Mastermind, just earlier today, we were having a technical issue and Kent happened to be in the room and was like, hey, Eddie, what's going on? How do we fix the problem? Because that's what a visionary wants to do. A visionary wants to get in quickly and fix the issue as fast as possible. An integrator needs to make sure that it's fixed correctly, because it might break again if it's not done correctly. And so Eddie goes to Kent and says, get the F out of the room, out of the room. Your job is to be on that stage. Your job is to network with those people. Your job is to create the show that is this mastermind. Our job is to fix these small problems. And so when I heard that, I realized that there needs to be a clear separation of visionary and integrator. They can't both be doing the same thing, because then you have two separate mindsets arguing over the same goal. And when you find that proper marriage, I've never worked with Greg as an integrator. I never have. But knowing what I know, if I said to Greg, hey, Greg, I want to build out a new marketing campaign based around direct mail. Can you put that on your calendar, and can you do some research on that? What I should hope from Greg, and quite frankly, I know he would come through with this, he would come back to me probably in a couple of days and say, okay, here's my timeline. Here's what I'm expecting. Give me an idea of what your goal is for the direct mail, and let me start researching companies. Let me start doing that. And then once I have a general idea of that research, let me then leverage and lean on a contractor. Let me leverage that out so that it's not on our shoulders, it's on somebody else's. Because that's ultimately what you're trying to do as a business owner. You're ultimately trying to offset your responsibilities so that everything you do every day makes you more money. It has a higher hourly rate. So that is, if I can talk about the visionary integrator role, that's kind of like where I come from, wisdom, being on both sides of it. That's where a proper marriage comes into play. There.
Yeah, I agree. To touch on that a little bit, I would say everybody's making jokes down there and stuff, and we're talking about dating apps. But yeah, you do got to go out there and you got to date the person that you're going to end up with. Luckily, I got lucky. My first partner has been my only partner. It's a true high school love story. Kinley and I, we lived in the same trailer park, and his mom got really sick, and he moved here to Temple, and he stayed up late one night watching, and he seen some crazy ass Dean Graziosi infomercial whenever he was trying to sell that. and I don't know, he started wholesaling, and my dad ended up going to prison, and I drove through Temple because I had to go to Breckenridge unit, and I told Kinley, "Hey, I'm in your town. Where you at?" And we went out to eat, and he gave me that book that Dean wrote, and the kind of the rest is history. I started driving for dollars for Kinley. Then I wanted to understand what he needed all that data for, and we started building it out. I seen portions of it that were super inefficient, and I just wanted to make them better. And I have a high school education. It took me a long time to start really understanding how businesses work the proper way. But back to going off subject a little bit, but back to talking about what we were originally talking about. It is like dating a lot. Some of the same things that Kinley and I do together, he does them with his wife, and we joke about that all the time. It's pretty funny. I think if you want to find the right one, it's the same thing, man. Like you don't date somebody. You date somebody to marry, but you don't get married to date. Like, don't make a full commitment to somebody before you know who they are, really. Test them out for a little bit, because it's just like Jeremy. The first one sucked. The second one was okay. Hopefully, the third time's a charm with him. It's really, really, I haven't ever experienced that, so I don't understand that struggle. I'm super grateful. I'm super blessed that, I haven't been burned by anybody. We did start a partnership with this guy named Christian Clark out of Houston, Texas. It was split into thirds. Kinley and him were both visionaries. It did not work out. He started acting like the crazy ex-girlfriend, calling us, asking him why we won't be his friend. And, he basically he kind of locked us out of everything and took the virtual assistants that we trained. And it was just a crazy thing. So yeah, I guess you do got to date your partners, make sure that they're right for you. Spend a lot of time in that. Don't overlook it. I know, like, you guys are probably thirsty to be successful, want to make a lot of money, but if you put in the work right now, it'll make it a lot easier on you in the long run. And that's my experience coming out. It's I've messed up before. Don't do what I did. Do what I'm telling you now.
One more thing I wanted to add that I forgot. You reminded me. That second partnership, the 2-year partnership. Looking back at it now, the divorce has happened, and knowing what I gave up or had to give up for that divorce, I realize why I partnered with that person. I want everyone to listen to this. I partnered with that person because I lacked the skills to hire and delegate. Because I lacked the skills at the time to hire and delegate, because I did not have clear SOPs, I did not have standard operating procedures, I didn't really understand, I didn't have an accountability chart, I didn't have an org chart, I really didn't understand what my business needed to look like from an integrator and a visionary role, that I gave up an equity share, when if I had clarity on what that business needed to look like and what those roles and responsibilities were, I could have very easily hired somebody from Pakistan to do most of that. And I don't mean that as an insult to the previous person. What I mean is that majority of their role was someone that I now have from Pakistan doing exactly that I'm paying $4 an hour for. And so I want to be very clear to you guys that, and just to enforce what Greg just said, you do not want to get into bed with somebody and get pregnant and have a baby before you realize that you are both going to be building that family together, and you're going to make that family stronger. So, excuse me. So, again, if you are a visionary and you are looking for an integrator, hire a COO. If you are an integrator and you're looking for a visionary, hire an acquisition manager. You do not need to give up equity of a business that you want to build because you lack those skills. You just need to get better at hiring and delegating responsibilities to other people and being focused on being a better leader. That's my biggest takeaway from that. So now this new partnership, I use loosely partnership, there is no equity share. It's a profit share. He does not get anything of the business if he breaks up or he decides to quit, but he grows the business with me, and he benefits from that profit being multiplied over and over and over again. So it's an incentive for him. It's an incentive for me. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's one reason I told George when he said, what do I want to talk about? I said, I really want to talk about the integrator visionary synergy because that's something that I'm really focused on right now. And it's paying off tenfold by choosing to restructure my business, to hire on the COO, to do everything that I'm doing. My business is behind where it would have been had I not done this. But because I did this, I now have a much stronger slingshot and I have a much stronger foundation that once it's released, I know that we're going to go a lot further than where we were during COVID, when literally anybody can make $100,000 by being the worst wholesaler in the world. Now it's time to build a business, a real business. Done.
Now, Jeremy, I'm curious, because now you're treating your business as business, right? It's not that you didn't before, but now you know better. Are you following a business framework?
Oscar, that is a great question. Yes. So there's a business framework. If you guys have read the book Traction, there is what we know as the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. Believe it or not, Traction was the very first book that I read when I started in real estate. And it was the worst book I could have read, being the first book I read in real estate. You know why? I had no clue what a KPI was. I had no clue what my goals were. I didn't know where I wanted to be in a month or a year. And really the basics of the EOS system is it's based around a term called rocks, right? And as you set really big rocks, really big goals, 10-year goal, down to a 5-year goal, down to 1-year goals, quarterly goals, monthly, so on and so forth. And as the saying is that you're carrying all these big, heavy rocks. And as you chip away at those daily rocks and those weekly rocks, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And you're able to move faster till eventually you hit those larger rocks and those larger goals. So to answer your question, Oscar, yes, I do use EOS, but I also, I joined a coaching program 5-6 months ago that has been exceptional. So do you guys know who Tiffany and Josh High are?
Yeah.
So they have a system that's called results driven, and they have multiple tiers. Obviously, I'm in the highest tier, but just starting, they had, I think I have it here. Do you guys mind if I link it?
No, go ahead.
So this right here, guys, this was $197. Okay. This was $197, and it got me into the virtual group, which every single day, every single week, they have a group coaching call, and they provide everything on their virtual program that you need as a business. Then the next step up from there is they have a 2-day seminar. And then finally, there's what they call the small group, which they do like one-on-one coaching. For me, when that previous partner and I split up, he also took some of the systems with him. Some of the operations and the playbooks that we had took with him. And so I had to make the decision, do I try to rebuild what I had built prior to that point, even though I knew some of the things were broken, that they just didn't work anymore? Or do I let my ego aside and do I kind of adopt a system that's working very, very, very well? And so that's what I've done. It's basically like, I guess you could say it's a wholesale and a fix and flip business in a box. And coming into this with the knowledge and the wisdom that I had before, coming into this is amazing, because I just hand it off to my COO and I go, build it out, do it, and all I have to do is check in. And so I'd say to all of you guys, for the $197 right there, just do that, just so you can learn like what the structure of running a business really looks like.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And the reason I'm asking too is because for us, business framework is also crucial, right? In companies, we talk about different implementation of visionary and integrator, but at the end of the day, it's business framework, right? The business framework will tell you that, right? So that's very key for everyone to know, right? Now, that's a good entry point. We're also using a business framework called RISE, right? From Sharper Process.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
So Rice framework is it's basically something similar to EOS. Actually, Gary Harper, which is the founder of Sharper Process, used to be EOS implementer.
Okay.
And so he's been a coach and an implementer of EOS for a while, and then he built his own framework basically. So what I'm saying is, without going into the details, because we can talk hours about business framework, right? EOS and Rice, they're pretty similar in a sense that they built your business from ground up if you follow their methodology. But the key that I'm trying to get across here in this partnership is not just visionary and integrator. It's not like you get married and that's it, magic happens, right? there's framework, there's and it's not even like, let's do a conveyor belt now. That's conveyor belt is one part of a business framework, right? It's about company culture, it's about purpose, it's about how you indicate your profit. It's about hiring process and all those stuff that is explained in a business framework, right? So the funny thing is, Jeremy, Rice business framework has been taught for many years, and for some reason they're not they're not as popular at EOS. It's probably because Sharper Process is was not a good marketer back then. They are now, but Rice is actually being used by high level people, and one of them is actually the result driven Tiffany High.
Oh, cool.
So Tiffany High actually uses or hired Gary Harper and Sharper Process to be their coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if what you're learning right there is actually part of the Rice framework. So which is very interesting. So if you ask Tiffany and Josh, they'll say they have they hired Sharper Process as their business coach. So Ryan Pineda also uses it, and you see him rise to fame, quote unquote, right? And that's a big chunk of it is probably because of Sharper and the way they built his business, and now he can scale up, and you can see the results. That's what I'm saying, right? You can see Tiffany and Josh High. They don't just come out from nowhere, right? You don't see Ryan Pineda coming out from nowhere. You don't see all the people that is rising now, quote unquote, rising now, and then scaling regardless of what they do, and being able to do a lot more different business and everything, because they started with a business framework and now they are scalable, right? So don't be surprised if you see Jeremy Davis having multiple businesses in like 3 years from now, because he's follow a business framework. That's the secret of it, right? I mean, that's really the foundation of any successful business, and not just visionary integrator. Because at one point, like Jeremy said, visionary can leave, integrator can leave, but the business needs to still be operating.
Right.
That's why there's always a search for a COO. There's always a search for a CEO. There's always a defined role. There's always defined role of profits and profitability and profit sharing and whatnot and everything. That's all needs to be defined in a company.
Yeah, that's an incredible point, Oscar. It's real quick. George, can you give me screen share? I just want to show something real quick.
Yeah, give me 1 sec.
With building out your company, guys, what Oscar was just explaining is that the visionary can always be replaced. The integrator can always be replaced. If you build out, you're leaving, Oscar?
Oh no, no, I'm here.
You can share your screen. You're good to go.
I saw got to go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Never mind. So real quick, I just want to show you guys this. And you can't get on my case for all the tabs I have open. So for example, here we have the accountability chart, right? If you guys haven't built out an accountability chart, Oscar, have you done an accountability chart yet?
I have the same thing that what you have, Jeremy. Okay, I mean, this is what we call accountability / responsibility chart, right? Everyone's name's nice to be in every single boxes there.
Yep, exactly right. So I'm just going to zoom in real quick, guys, so you can see like what's going on here. Visionary, Jeremy. Evan, integrator. What Jeremy's in charge of: raising private money, getting on stages, podcasts, close deals, AKA creating relationships, creating opportunities. Integrator Evan, manage the business, underwrite profitability. These are all of our people, our Americans, our virtual assistants, our companies. And then what we do is we separate that and we go, okay, who is sales manager? That's Jeremy. That's his role. Then down below that, who's in charge of acquisitions? Who's in charge of dispositions? Actually, believe it or not, we're actually shifting something around right now. We're trying to make Evan be head of dispositions, because what's happening is that now that the systems are being no, I'm not a tabaholic. I just haven't shut anything down. Okay, I see that chat. What's going on right now is now that Evan has almost finished entirely building out all of the new software that we're utilizing with the virtual group, now he's got free time. What is he going to do next? Well, guess what you're going to do next, Evan? You're going to focus on disposition. You're going to focus on building out a more systemized approach where it doesn't have to be Jeremy making calls to buyers. Even though I've got a lot of relationships and I've got my VIP buyers, I want to create a systemized approach to where our VAs are scraping buyers every single day. I want to have our dispo manager not just be a dispo manager, but I also want him to be building out referral leads. I want when we're doing our meetup every single month, I want our dispo manager to be the point of contact that if somebody needs help on a deal, that the dispo manager is also bringing in leads from referrals from local people. Same thing with agent outreach, same thing with MLS. So my point is here is that you'll see you have to define and you have to figure out all of the different roles in your business. Buyer marketing, vetting, qualifying, CRM input, and every single thing you have here, you have to assign somebody to that. This is an accountability chart. This is so you have knowledge. If this person quits over here, you know, bookkeeping, tax planning, blah, 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 that's handled by my guy, Jeff. So I know that if he quits, these are the roles that I now need to fill because that's what he was touching on. I don't have to care about anything over here because that's handled by somebody else. So I just wanted to show you guys this real quick. And by the way, this right here, this is even a breakdown of all of my email accounts. So my executive assistant, these are the email accounts that they're in charge of. Katie, my TC, the emails that they're in charge of. So like, again, guys, building out and documenting every process in your business and every responsibility is only going to lead to a stronger foundation. So, boom.
That was awesome, man.
Thank you.
Everyone wants your flow chart now and want to copy it. They're just going to put all their names on it all the time. And
Right.
I'm telling you, it doesn't work that way. All right. So, but you know what's funny, Jeremy? I have the same thing, right? And I went through this with my business coach, which is a shopper process, right? The first thing we went through is show me your business. And when that means like that is show me your responsibility chart, right? Who's who in the business right now before we even do anything, right? Yep. And guess what? It was a tough pill to swallow because my name is more than most of it, right? And that's what a solopreneur is, right? You might have a few VAs and they'll be like over here, over here, over here, but you will start with your name being all over that, right? I think based on the industry standard, like I don't know, Jeremy, are you still doing wholesaling or marketing operation? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think the general standard is, I might be wrong, but when I asked asked the people in shopper process that already have their system implemented, right? There's about 20 to 25 seats that needs to be filled in that accountability chart, right? At least 20, 25, right? And they could be multiple people. It doesn't mean like one person, one seat, right? At this point, some like Evan is in multiple seats, right? You're in multiple seats, right? So that's what I'm saying. But there's at least 20 to 25 seats that you need to fill in a full-blown working wholesale operating system.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and this is progress, guys. This is what we go through every single day as visionary and integrator. This is like high-level stuff that we need to go through. I have meetings every quarter to evaluate this, right? I mean, we just evaluated today. It's like, because we're growing, right? And then we have company purpose that we have to evaluate. We have 3-year, 1 year, and 90-day goals that we have to, really just follow through, right? And this is fun stuff for us. So if you're really into business building, I mean, we can talk about all day, right? Sure. This is like, we can nerd out on this every single day. Like, forget about cold calling, guys. Cold calling's like, go to someone else, right? Like, go somewhere else when you want to like listen to cold calls all day. No offense to people who like cold calls, right? Or sellers call, right? Like, oh man, I can close. I want someone that can close for my company. I don't want to be a salesperson anymore, right? Not now. I mean, I used to do this all the time too, right? But this is business building, and I'm glad I can be at a higher position right now and a higher level because of the business, the hard work we put in. Everyone should want this. Yeah. Right? That's what you're saying. We're giving you a glimpse of what a business is operating. Now, I'm not going to say if it's a successful one or not, because everyone has different goals and so what is successful, that's up to you. Yep. Right? How do you want to grow and scale is up to you. Sometimes you don't want to scale. Sometimes you just want to grow and and at the end of the day, you want to sell the business. Sometimes at the end of the day, you want, like, I have clients, so I have a bookkeeping and advisory firm company, right? And we help people that, want to give them financial. So what? So they can be evaluated by someone professional, by a forensic accountant, and they look at our books, and because they want to see evaluation, because they want to sell it, right? But that's the real reason why they built this business, because they want to sell it at like 10x multiplier, right? So it really depends on you, but regardless, the business needs to be built.
Yep.
And an operating system is something you should consider, right? If you want to build a business.
And when you're talking about building businesses, is earlier, Greg and I were talking about that we own VA companies. That was one of the biggest mistakes I could have ever made, was building out a secondary business before my primary business was solidified. And what that also allowed me to do was it allowed me to be distracted over here, where on the good times I was netting about 20,000 a month. Amazing. That was awesome. I was like, hey, sushi every single night. I don't
Yeah.
But what I realize now is that the time that I was spending working, getting new clients, onboarding new people, trying to retain those people and do all that kind of stuff over here, I could have been spending less time in my real estate business and making more money as I was building that out to being something incredible. There's a reason that you'll notice that Pace, he doesn't talk about VAs anymore, because he realized that in the beginning, that was great. That was income coming in, but now he doesn't even want Start Virtual to be for realtors anymore, or realtors for real estate anymore. Like, because there's such a high attrition, or like the attrition rate's 3 months. Someone quits after 3 months. They go, oh, I don't know how to use a VA. I was expecting that I was going to be a millionaire by the time I pulled my first list off PropStream. And I realize now my time is so much better spent locking up deals, going on appointments, focusing on the next best thing or the next opportunity that will increase my KPIs. For me, I get turned on now if I can lower my cost per lead.
Yep.
Right? Like before, I was like, oh, how many leads can I get? Oh, I'm going to do JVs with all of you. I want all of you in sub 2 to send me your trash leads. I don't do that anymore. I don't touch that.
Right.
Because why am I going to waste my time on trash leads when I can get predictable marketing and know that if I'm spending $350 per lead, I can expect my cost per contract is $6,000 and my revenue or my closed deal is about $40,000. So for every $6,000 I spend, I'm making $40,000. That's the stuff that turns me on now. And I also turn on training my salespeople by having them better on the phones. And so, like I said, there's so many different ways to identify what a successful business is or what a failing business is. But one thing I will say, and I'm sure you guys are all going to agree, every day, a small part of me wants to quit. Every day. I want to work at McDonald's. I want to start an OnlyFans account. I'm serious. Every day, guys, if you're a new entrepreneur, if you're new to this or you're experienced, you'll understand the pain. Every day there's a moment that we go, why are we doing this? And then that leaves our brain very quickly because we're probably distracted by the next shiny thing. But nonetheless, getting to this point, it just took 1% better every day. Just 1% better.
Yeah. I thought you already have an OnlyFans, Jeremy. I thought I subscribed to you like $2.99 every month.
That's my cheap account. I have a more expensive.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good.
I do a lot of.
I need to level up first, right? I can't afford your next course.
We're actually running a promotion in this webinar. If you go sign up for Jeremy Davis's OnlyFans, you get a whole year of it for the cost of a Happy Meal.
Yep. But anyway, like I said, I can bring a lot of experience with this because right now this is where my passion is with the vision.
Now we also want to inspire people by saying you got to do the hard work first, right? And we're not saying that you shouldn't tackle leads, you shouldn't look for opportunities. So obviously when you're just starting, you need to learn where you are, what you want to do and what you want to focus on, and learn how to navigate the quote unquote partnership and the JV partnership of real estate and all those stuff. You need to make mistakes and learn from it. That's part of the game. Right. And that's why we talk about, hey, right now we learn, like Jeremy learned that his time and effort and skills is better fit somewhere else than just taking trash leads or dead leads that we call it. Right. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it in the beginning. Right. Like, you know, I cold call, I door knock, I get trash leads, and all of that leads to us being here. That's the important part that we need to give to people, right? This is like you have to start somewhere. Be, you know, be happy where you're starting, but you know, just continue, like Jeremy said, be 1%, you know, better every single day, right? So if you want to talk about dead leads is still good, but create a system so you don't need to be talking to dead leads every day, right? Create a system so your VA can be the best in talking about dead leads,
Sure.
right? So I mean, those kind of things that we need to realize, you know, once we find out that we start thinking the future and how to grow that, right? Whatever niche we are in. So
Yep, exactly
yeah.
right.
Do we have a time for Q&A, or because like there's a lot of questions?
Yeah,
I mean, there's like 11 questions right now.
Yeah,
like
let's
I
do
see.
the last half hour for the Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of wrap that part up. I really appreciate you guys you know, chipping in, especially since, you know, we're, you know, obviously on the topic of visionary and integrator synergy. I think a lot, I think that obviously paints the picture of how we as integrators can look at things differently than the visionary, right? Like I'm not even like, I'm glad Oscar has that, you know, Oscar and Jeremy have that that hierarchy chart. You know, they have that perspective, they have that view. They're looking at things that the integrator is like, you know, for us to be spending our time and, you know, and prying open a you know a chart like that, it would be distracting to an integrator, right? Like we want to make sure that we're doing the things that we like there was I saw a few comments, right, about like about how it is impossible to have two alpha. And even Jeremy mentioned, you know, that ideally you would want to have strong people, right? Like I think what I was really referring to is like, you can't have two alpha visionaries is what I'm saying, right? Like you want to have a strong integrator, you want to have a strong visionary, you want to have a strong acquisition manager, you want to have strong people on your team. You just don't want to have more than one person fighting over the same piece of bread, right? Like everybody has their role, everybody has their lane, everybody has the thing that they're responsible for. And so that's the only point I was trying to drive. And I'm glad again that we were all able to get insight from multiple perspectives. But yeah, I did want to leave some room to answer any questions that you guys have.
That first partnership that I mentioned, I brought it to Pace and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he said, absolutely effing not. He goes, that is going to be a terrible, terrible partnership, Jeremy. Even though you're coming in as an integrator, you're a visionary. I see it. That person's a visionary. This is going to fail. And I didn't listen to Pace Morby. He laughs at it now because I'm like, I was stupid as hell. But yeah, it's to have two alpha people is awesome if they both have separated roles. Because what's great about this is that, let's pretend, for example, that Greg is my integrator and I am trying to take something over. I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to control one of his processes. I want Greg to say, Jeremy, shut up. Jeremy, shut up. What, this is not your job. Walk away. And if Greg wasn't a strong alpha, he would not do that to me because I would just, you know, I would over empower him. And so having equal strengths is great, but it doesn't matter whether they're alpha, beta, gamma, it doesn't even matter. As long as there's a clear defined separation of roles, that's where it matters.
What if they're Hulk?
I would honestly argue that somebody who's strong and knows who knows their place in the business isn't going to overstep their boundary, because that shows a lot of self-control, in my opinion.
Yep. So, all right, I saw Sergio asked a question.
Yeah,
are we? Is this the last 30 minutes? Is it going till?
Yeah, last 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. How much
do you do, Sergio?
Sergio, I saw you had a question. How much do you pay your COO, Jeremy? Is it per deal, getting closed commissions?
Yeah.
So no. So remember, profit share is completely different than commissions. Okay. So commissions, you got to look at it this way. If I was giving my COO profit on our deals closed, that doesn't make any sense because he's being rewarded for things that I'm doing for my sales team, that I'm training my sales team, right? Like if you're going to be doing a profit share for a COO, it needs to be based off of market spend. It needs to be based off of revenue. It needs to be based off of all that kind of stuff, and building out new milestones or new sectors of the business. And so what we're doing right now, I'll be honest with you, we haven't decided yet. We actually, on Friday, we have an appointment with our CPA and our tax strategist. We're either going to go one of two roads. The easier road is going down the profit first model, where there's that profit account. And very simply, at the end of every month or every single quarter, that profit account is split 50-50, right? And by the way, I'm not going to do a 49-51 or anything like that. I don't care. I'm not greedy. He deserves 50% of the profit if he brings in 50% of the work. But what he doesn't get is he doesn't get equity. If he decides to quit, I'm not selling off a portion of my portfolio so that he can get that, right? So it's either going to be profit first, which is going to be a very simple split of that profit account, or and we're leaning towards this, is it being based off of EBITDA. EBITDA means earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. So basically meaning it will incentivize him to not spend money. The higher margins we have, the more revenue and the lesser expenses, the more profit we gain that way. Means that if we're basing it off of EBITDA, he benefits by making the business perform at a higher functioning level. So I'll be honest with you, that's not my expertise, taxes. So that's why I'm bringing in my tax guy for this. They're going to be the ultimate deciding factor, but you don't base integrator performance off of commission, off sales.
Got it.
Makes sense.
Got
Okay.
it. Makes sense.
Yeah. What other questions we got, guys?
I mean, if no one has questions, I have questions.
You had a couple questions, Sergio. So go ahead, and then I see Josh has his hand raised.
Okay, so another question I have is, for a lot of the integrator visionary roles, like, even though I'm an integrator and I'm really good at lead gen and creating systems and all that kind of stuff, I'm not very detail oriented, which doesn't make sense. So a lot of times when I send a contract, I forget to check box something or something like that. And my partner he's very detail oriented and he's really good at talking to people. So a lot of times when we get something under contract and then I call them, they're like, "Who are you? Like, why are you coming into the picture?" So my partner is really good at like just kind of taking the deal after he closes it and doing the dispo and doing the TC, but like, because all those things require talking to people. So
Okay.
how do you deal with like knowing what things the integrator should do versus what the visionary should do, even though some things don't fit the model?
Sergio, I'm going to be, I'm known for being very blunt. So forgive me for being blunt on this one, but what you just explained to me was you can be an admin VA. That to be a good integrator, you have to be offering up the opportunity to build out other sectors of the business. And right now, you just doing lead generation and systems and CRMs. There are 100,000 companies in other countries that would do this for extremely cheap prices, which is what we hire out towards. You have to think about the bigger picture. When you say you're not detail oriented, that doesn't mean you're good or bad at your job. What it means though right now is that the responsibilities that are on your shoulders are very limited. And what you should be focused on, and this is my secret to you, focus on hiring somebody that does what you do right now. And then now you've elevated yourself above them. Then when your partner needs something in TC, he's doing TC right now, hire somebody that will do TC to take that off of his plate. And then hire somebody for dispo that will take that off of his plate. So that will allow him to close more deals, allow you guys to put more deals in your pipeline. You have to think about it as a conveyor belt. We all know the conveyor belt analogy, right? You've got lead generation and lead follow-up are the two most important things of the business. You're doing lead generation right now. Who's doing your lead follow-up? Who's calling your sellers?
I do some of it, and we have a VA that does some of it.
You should be doing none of it. Okay. You're the integrator. You should not be doing lead follow-up. You should have a VA or an acquisition follow-up specialist or a lead manager doing exactly that. The fact that you're sharing the same responsibility that a VA is doing right now at $5 an hour shows that you are undercutting yourself and you're discounting your skills and your worth. So do you feel you're worth $5 an hour?
No,
You're
not
worth
at all.
right? I hope. At least
Yeah.
right? So that's what you got to focus on is delegating those responsibilities out so that every task, every job that you do every day is going to be worth more money to you and your business. I know for me, I'm at $1,000+ per hour. Pace Morby, he's probably at tens of thousands of dollars per hour, right? So you have to understand that. And if you have, there's a book called Buy Back Your Time. Great book about hiring an executive assistant, but really there's one formula that he talks about is you take what you're currently doing right now, what that's worth to you, and you basically let me rephrase that. You take what your annual revenue is or what your annual profit is, and you divide it by X number of weeks, by X number of hours. And whatever that is, if you're making $100,000, and I'm not doing the math in front of me, but let's say you're making $40 an hour. That means that you can offset that at 25% of that 40 and rent or hire a virtual assistant at $10 an hour to do the $40 an hour tasks that you were doing yourself. So now you can elevate and focus on the more expensive things to make yourself more money. And that's why there are executive assistants out there that make over $100,000 a year because their executives that they are assisting are making millions of dollars per year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, I need to build systems out to hire in the positions that he's doing so that he has more time to do more of the closings. And then, yeah, basically that, right?
You want him to do, from what you told me right now, he's doing dispo, he's doing closings, and he's doing TC work, right?
He just started TC like last week. I've been doing it since the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, dispo and
hire a TC. Hire a TC. Don't put more responsibilities on his shoulders. Don't slow him down from locking up deals. Don't have him have to dealing with the title company and all that bullshit. Hire a TC. Oscar, do you have TCs or are you only tax and bookkeeping?
No, I don't have TCs. We hire TCs.
Hire,
yeah. So
hire a TC and get yourself out of being the lead follow-up. Because if you're doing what a VA is doing right now, you're literally lowering yourself down to a VA's job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other than hiring the TC, what else could I be doing with my time? Like, what should I be building out?
Hiring somebody, training that person to be a good follow-up specialist so that they're going to support your guy as a closer. And then from that point, you're then going to say, hey, do you want to stay as a closer? Or do you want to stay as a dispo person? Because then now it's going to be your job to build out the systems that are going to support replacing him on either one. It is the conveyor belt. You want to have one person in every seat. You don't want to have one person on multiple seats because it takes away their bandwidth and their focus on those other portions of the business. By having one person in the same seats creates the roller coaster effect because you get a deal under contract. Now you got to deal with TC, you got to deal with dispo, and guess what's not happening? You're not locking up deals because you're focused on that. And so then you have these big ups and these downs. You've got months of nothing, and then you've got months of something and months of nothing. You want to have that consistency across the board. And you can only get that if everybody has their own seat.
and Sergio, I'm sorry, Jeremy, are you done or okay?
I'm done.
Just again, just because everyone is at a different position or journey in their life, what Jeremy says, like totally 100% is true, right? And you have to consider too, what I hear, what you're saying, you know, like when you say like, what do I do? Because I feel like you don't know what to do, is it comes back to your company purpose, right? So I feel that, you know, if you don't know what you're doing or you don't know what you want to do next, you don't have a strong company purpose that translates into strong goals. When you have a strong company purpose that you translate into goals, and that could be, you know, for us, we have 3-year goal, 1-year goal, and 90 days goal that we evaluate that every single time, right? If you don't have that yet, I suggest you go back to that drawing board and find out that first, because when you find that out, then you will have a strong goals, and that goals will translate to issues that will be you'll face every single day, and you'll find either you have to create process for it or you hire the right person to solve that issue. So, you know, that's just an exercise. I mean, I have a whole exercise. It is more than just like I'm a visionary integrator to put a company purpose and all that stuff. But that's a totally other conversation. Again, that's business framework. I'm sure EOS has some ways to do it. Rise also have ways to do it. But again, at the end of the day, try to get together with your team or your leads or your visionary or whoever your partner is. Go sit down together and find out what the company purpose is. And that's not to make a $2 million. That's not it. I mean, that's revenue. That's revenue goals, right? What is the purpose of the company? That you know, what problems are you solving, right? And then that will translate into goals. And once you know that, then, you know, issues will come up, and but you'll know how to handle them, because now you'll know, like, if you're missing people in the right seats or you need to take care of that and build system, then teach people how to do it, which is usually means you can have VA to do it.
Sergio, that I put that link in there again. If you don't do that, pay $200 to see what a well-oiled machine looks like. That's where you should start. You don't have to start with the EOS system or anything like that, because you don't even know what your business is supposed to look like yet before you get an EOS implementer in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Josh, what's up, brother? Not there?
Hey, Shy.
We'll wait till he unmutes. Sergio, do you have other questions? There we go. There's Josh. Okay. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I don't know why my hand was raised. I didn't have a question, so sorry about that.
That's okay. We forgive you. Do you have a question now?
No.
Okay.
We got a few people in the Q&A. I mean, we can read that. I mean, I think we answer a bunch of Sergio's, and hopefully that answers a lot of them. So Sergio, I'm assuming everyone here, a lot of them are real estate wholesalers, predominantly, but one way to pay COO also to see if you can afford a COO is to really see the revenue first and to predict that revenue. And that's again in goal setting. So if you're planning to hire a COO, then you need to reach a certain level of revenue so that you can hire a COO. I mean, that's one thing too. And for example, you know, just because we are bookkeeper and accountant, you know, we have a standard. Like if you're an S corp, for example, like a lot of people becomes an S corp right away, right? And when we tell people you don't need to be an S corp unless you make 70K profit or more, because that's when everything kicks in terms of the profitability of S corp. But then also, you know, when in a business, before you can afford to hire, like, and we talk about hiring and everything, and Jeremy at a different level, but he can hire people because he has process and everything, but not a lot of people can do that in the beginning. And we totally understand that, right? But there's always ways to do it. Again, you know, going back to the responsibility or process chart, right? Where you a lot of times when you start, it's just basically 2 people putting yourself in 20 seats. But then as you progress, right, then you start putting people in different seats that you can afford. That's the goal too. You can't just follow Jeremy and say, I'm going to hire a COO right now and give him profit sharing, blah, 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 and everything. You're going to go down tomorrow, or he's going to leave you tomorrow because you don't have you're not a leader yet, or you're not there yet, or you don't have a vision big enough yet, or you don't have a business process, or you don't have a purpose yet, or you don't have a goal yet. You know, especially if you're visionary, that's a key, right? You can't just start then and start hiring people. Just hope it will work.
I'll
Right.
leave one last thing to support that, Oscar. We haven't even talked about this, and we're not going to talk about it because we can go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Core values.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I thought core values were fuzzy little stuffed animals that I did not
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to be vigorous and blah, 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 blah. And I never put much thought into it. And then now my core values, if I shared them with you guys, that defines who I am and what this is about. Like one of my core values, absolute resilience. Absolute resilience. Now, what that means is when you have a seller that tells you, Oscar, I love you. I'm going to sell you this property next week. I promise. And it's going to be worth $100,000 for you. And then they sign with somebody else. That hurts. That hurts. That hits our soul. But through resilience, which by the definition is learning from pain, learning from mistakes, and getting stronger from that, becoming resilient, you now know I'm never going to let a seller ever make that promise again. I'm going to hold them up to an upfront contract and say, why will you not sign with me today? Why do we have to wait for next week? I'm going to make sure my sales team knows that. So again, guys, like understanding your core values even and understanding your business even is super, super important. In EOS or in Traction, they literally go, what are your core values? And I remember when I first read that book, I'm like, the fuck I know.
Yeah.
What is this stupid shit? Like, do I write it on the wall? Like happiness, joy,
Right.
like the Boy Scout motto. But yeah, guys, all of these things. This is day one of the 3-day. I was here for day one because I really wanted to be here, because talking about visionaries and integrators working together is it's the start of a business partnership. It's the start of that relationship. It's the start of that marriage. And understand, like, the things that I've learned from these mistakes, I want to pass on to you. And it's funny that the mistakes that Pace experienced from previous partnerships, I listened to, yet I somewhat ignored because I'm like, nah, it's different. But it's not. It's really. But real quickly, Lana says, what's the difference between Cody and Molly? If you guys don't know who Cody and Molly are, Cody is Pace's integrator. Molly is Pace's integrator. Okay.
Different businesses.
Exactly. Molly is on the transaction coordination side. Okay. Where she's handling a lot of the deals, the paperwork and stuff like that. But overall, it's the same exact process for Pace. If Pace needs a system built out, he goes, Cody, I need a system built out. Cody goes, okay, Pace, I got you. If Pace goes to Molly and says, hey, Molly, I need this built out, she goes, okay, Pace, I'll build this for you. Molly is a Pace's integrator. That's why if you look around Pace, his circle, he's got Josiah, he's got Cody. Josiah's his name, right? Josiah?
Josiah.
Yeah, Josiah. Yeah.
New Reach, right? Yeah.
New Reach. He's got Zach Fisher. He's got Cody. He's got Molly. Really, Pace is such a strong visionary that one integrator cannot handle him. And so he needs to have multiple integrators to build out everything that he's building all at once. But it started with Cody. And because of Cody giving Pace the solid foundation that he has or had, it allowed Pace to feel more comfortable getting on camera, building those relationships, getting on interviews with Grant Cardone, for F's sake. So that's it.
Yeah. And really, you can you can have multiple COOs because they're different businesses too, right? I mean, Cody, when they started with Pace, it's basically real estate business in the sense of like wholesaling and flipping and all those stuff, right? But then when he built out his companies, then Molly came in to build out the TC business, right? It's a totally different business. I mean, it's real estate related, but it's different than what Cody does. So it's just again, putting the right people in the right seat. That's what it means, right? That's the the title is the same.
Yep.
I mean, if you have to title them, it's the same, right? But the responsibility is different based on the building they built.
Yep. Prime Virtual is my VA company. If I had hired a COO dedicated to my VA company would be great. But I gave that responsibility to my ex-integrator, which he was handling this and this and this and this and this, and he didn't have the bandwidth to focus on that. I should have brought in another integrator. But, and let me say this one last, I know I keep saying one last thing. There's also a level of guilt from the visionary that I've had to overcome, where I don't want my integrator to feel left behind. That in the beginning, when I was getting on stages and I'm speaking about what we're doing, I felt that my integrator was jealous. That because I enjoy being on stages, that must mean that he enjoys being on stages too. And that therefore, right, you see Greg shaking his head. It was hard for me to accept that we really do have different mindsets. So Evan on my team now, he literally gets aroused with the idea of having me never be in the business and focus on new visionary tactics, new opportunities, new businesses, and all that kind of stuff. He wants that. And to find the right synergy between a visionary and integrator is exactly that. You can't want the same thing. You just need to both have the same goal, but you have to want it in different levels.
Yeah. That's true. And to everyone that's going to attend day 2 and or day 3, hopefully you guys attend both the day 2 and day 3. Remind me to show my process chart, and not process charts, but ownership chart, accountability charts. I'll be able to show you our chart for my bookkeeping company, which is a lot simpler, but it makes sense when you see it, right? What I want to show you is this, visionary integrator, and like where do we put people in their seats, right? At least you guys, and then you can mind map it yourself, because every different companies are built differently, but the positions are similar.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess we're wrapping this up right now. If I could just say one last thing, to all of my Utah people that that normally, like I said, we have our meetup tonight and we did this instead. I want to thank you guys for being here, and you guys are more than welcome to come to the next 2 days. I know you guys registered for that, so I'd love for you, if you're an integrator, be here for Oscar and what Rick Sheldon is coming in.
Yeah,
Jimmy
Thursday.
coming in, right? Like
Yep.
there's some incredible people coming in the next couple of days, so I highly urge you guys to be here. But also next month will be a physical meetup again for Utah, so I'd love to see you guys there.
I want to go to Utah. I've never been to Utah.
You're in Chicago, dude. Chicago's fun, man. I'm getting dinner with you. I love that. It was great.
Yeah. When's the next time you come down?
Probably never.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
invite me to Utah. I'll come.
I just wanted we're heading on to the top of the hour. Thank you guys so much. But yes, it's crazy how, when Oscar and Jeremy are speaking, how they're talking about these, these critical foundational core components, right? These core values, these the pillars that hold up the business, right? Like that's nothing as an integrator that we're thinking twice about, right? Like we obviously want to align to those things, but to the earlier conversation tied to Sergio, like without it, like you're just it's kind of like you're just flying aimlessly, right? And so just to be able to tie it back into some of the earlier points that we made in the very beginning, when you have things that you do that align to the business strategy, like Oscar just sent me our goals, right? I have a million things that I could work on, a million and one things that I can keep myself busy with. But if I put all my focus and all of my energy into making sure that we knock those goals out, like we're good, right? That's what matters. And so that's the power of that integrator and visionary synergy. We're at time. And again, I love that you guys are here. And yeah, to Jeremy's point, we have a really, really great and exciting week coming up. Thursday, we're going to be talking about automation. We're going to be talking about some more SOP stuff. We're going to be talking about tool mastery. On Saturday, we're actually going to be diving into some metric stuff. We're going to be talking about how to kind of delegate some of the tasks as an integrator, and just making sure that the right folks are working on the right things. So a lot of our conversation today is teeing a lot of that stuff up. So yeah, if we weren't able to get to your questions, guys, let's gather them. I'll send out an email today to everyone who attended with a copy of the Zoom link. And if you guys want to respond with any questions that we weren't able to get to, we'll make sure that we tackle them first thing on Thursday when we boot this thing back up. Okay.
And real quick, Oscar, what's your IG handle?
Profit with Oscar.
Profit with Oscar?
I'm not a closer anymore. I upgraded myself.
Good job. Greg, what are you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Big Spread Greg.
Big Spread Greg. George, what about you?
I just put it in the chat. It's Georgie with a 0.
Okay. And I am the Jeremy Davis. So thank you very much, guys. George, Oscar, thank you for having me. And Greg, I love being side by side with you, brother.
Likewise, thank you for having me, George. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who was here participating.
Thank you guys.
Beautiful. All right. See you next
Thanks,
time.
George. Good night.
Bye.
I'll see you again tomorrow or Thursday.
See you Thursday.